Welcome, Crafty Friends. Annie Collins here. Today I'm guest designing for Gerda Steiner, and I'm created this fun fall shaker card. Let's go to the products I used to create this card. The new Nuts About You 4x6 stamp set, which is GSD 830. It contains two large images, which is the squirrel and our little tree here, and it has two smaller images, which is the leaf and the little acorn, and two sentiments, one that reads "I'm nuts about you" and "Happy Fall." I will be using the squirrel, all the images and the sentiment that reads "Happy Fall." I went ahead and stamped and colored our images ahead of time just to save us some time because I'm a slow colorer, let's admit it. So here is our adorable little squirrel, and he's holding a big pile of nuts, which is so cute. And I stamped our tree twice, and I colored it because I want to create that for the background. And of course, our little extra leaves and acorns are right here. Let me flip this one over. It's a nice little yellow leaf. I kept the coloring very simple, very clean, very easy. And I have some shaker bits on the side, because today we'll be creating a fun shaker card. So, excuse me. So I use Copic Markers to color our images. Mostly E markers and then a few other fun colors to do our leaves and such. I will have these all listed for you in the description box below so that you know what colors I did use. I kept it super simple, not a lot of shading and such for our images. They aren't huge images, so you don't need to go into like all this detail. Alright, so I also have some cardstock here that I've cut to make our grass, and it's like a minty green, but to give it a little more dimension, I went ahead and used some distressed oxide on the edge of it, and I used some Rustic Wilderness just to define the grass a little bit more, because we want it to look more fall, not summery. For our background, I have two pieces of pattern paper. This one is like a blue with falling leaves, and this is a striped one. These are from, I believe, the Maker's Movement. Again, in the description box below, it will be listed for you. So I thought these would be fun, and the leaf one is cut about 1/4 of an inch shorter, so the striped one is an A2 size, so 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. And the inside leaf one is 4 by 5 1/4. Our grass is 4 1/4 wide, and then about an inch, and then 2 inch. This is our card base. Is a 110-pound card base, which is an A2 size, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. We have a clear full panel shaker pouch. That's how we're going to create our shaker today. These shaker pouches have a film on them that you will have to remove, and I'll show you that in a bit. And then I have an extra piece of white cardstock and an extra piece of our stripe pattern paper, and that is for our sentiment. And here's our shaker bits. So let's clear all that and get into making our card. First, what we're going to do is we're going to stamp our sentiment. We're going to, like I said, we're going to use Happy Fall. I will be bringing in some VersaFine Onyx black ink for that. I'm going to ink up our sentiment. Go ahead and stamp it. Excuse my hair making an appearance there. Alright, gonna go ahead and give it a quick little stamp, and then I'll set it aside. One, it'll give it a chance to dry. I don't want to smear it, I always do. And we can jump into creating our card. Alright, so first thing we're going to do, and I'm only working on this copy paper because of the pouch. The pouch tends to have everything stick to it, and as much as I clean my craft mat, stuff still sticks to the pouch because it's staticky. So here's that film that comes on these pouches. You just have to remove it, and now you're going to have a nice clear pouch. The pouch also comes with its own adhesive. I'm still bringing in some tear tape and some Burley Art glue to put our card together. First, we're going to start by adhering our two pattern papers together. We're going to use some Burley Art glue to do that. I'm going to go ahead and put some all on the back of the leaf paper. I'm going to go ahead and center that onto our stripe pattern paper. This is cut to fit inside the pouch, but I still need to trim off a little bit all the way around, because with the pouch you do not want anything going over the little crease areas. So I double check, and then I realize I have a little bit going over my crease areas. But to confirm it, I'm going to reinforce all these score lines on this pouch. They come pre-scored for you and pre-adhesive, but still I want to double check, and it does. So I'm going to bring in my trimmer, and I'm going to remove a smidgen, a hair. I don't know how thin that is, but it's a real thin piece all around this panel, because like I said, you want to stay within your score or fold lines so that your pouch doesn't bow and it lays flat on your card base. So I'm just going to remove that. Once that's all done, I get rid of those because we don't need that. And then I can place my card panel inside my little pouch. Okay, all good. So now I'm going to go ahead and put tear tape on all four sides of the back of this panel. So I'm going to go ahead and place that, like I said, on all four sides. And this is going to help seal our panel onto close so it can create the pouch for our shaker bits. You'll see here one second. Once I get that in there, I'm going to grab my pokey tool so I can remove the backing of our tear tape here. And if you're not familiar with tear tape, it's just double-sided adhesive that comes in a roll, and you just stick it down and tear it off on one end. If you don't like tearing it, you can use scissors. So now I expose the double-sided adhesive, and then I use my bone folder to fold the flaps back on. You don't have to use the bone folder. I like doing it because it reinforces that score, that fold even better. And it gets great adhesion all the way across. Don't forget you're adhering this plastic to paper. So now we've created a pocket. Now we can put all of our fun shaker bits into our pocket. This little shaker bits have fun little clay bits in there. They have some little fall leaves, some pumpkins, little apples, all those little things you associate with fall. And then of course in all fall colors. And I have confetti pieces, the clay bits, and sequins. Alright, so now I'm going to take the last part off there of the rest of the score tape and close our pouch. I'm going to go ahead and reinforce everything once again. Now our pouch is completely closed, and we're going to adhere it to the front of our card base. I'm going to use the combination of Barely Art glue and the adhesive that comes with the clear panel, clear pouches I should say. I'm using the Barely Art glue, the liquid glue, because it gives you some wiggle room or some time to move it around to make sure everything is centered and correctly placed onto the panel. These are A2 size, so they fit perfectly, but just in case. So there is our, it's on there, nice. And so now we're going to go ahead and start decorating the front of our card. This is our grass, like I said. We're just going to adhere these two panels together, these two pieces of the grass. I didn't glue it all the way down, just the bottom, so that I can tuck my trees in here. I'm going to tuck the first tree here, and then I realized that's too far over and I'll need to move it. So I place it here, and then I'm like, let me check this on the panel, and I was right, it's too far over. So I just start scooching it over more to the left. Once I get it where I want it, I can press it in place, and I can add more glue. I'm going to adhere the other tree to the top of this little grassy mound here. Double check everybody's where I want them to be, and now I can add more adhesive. To adhere this to the front of the panel, I'm going to adhere this paper to plastic, so I'm going to add a little bit of tear tape and Barely Art glue. I like combining these to make sure everything stays on our panel. So I'm going to put two pieces of the tear tape, a little bit extra on this tree here. I'll remove the backing of all this tear tape, and then I'll use the Barely Art glue on everything else. So I'm going to add the Barely Art there, little dots behind our leaves and our trees, and then I'll press this into place. And if any egg glue oozes out, onto the plastic, I just wipe it up really quickly. And since the Barely Art glue dries clear, you won't see any of it. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and press that. Like I said, I have that little bit leaf sticking out. Doesn't bother me. If it bothers me, by all means, you can trim it. Here is our adorable little squirrel. I use foam adhesive to him, so I'm going to remove the backing of our foam adhesive, and I'm going to place him in the center towards the bottom. And I had, with the Distress Oxide, I created like a little shadow there for him, like a little shadow underneath his feet. And now we're going to add the rest of our cute little leaves and acorns, and we're just going to scatter them on the side of each side of him, as if they fell off the trees and he's just gathering up all his nuts, you know, getting all ready there. We have the most adorable squirrels. We have two of them that live in we have two big ash trees in the front of our house, and they've decided that that's their permanent home, and they come in our yard and just go crazy. They are such fun to look at. So here's our shaker card. How fun is that? And now we just need to add our sentiment. So we're going to trim down our sentiment into a nice little strip here. I have pulled out my tiny trimmer and going to get both sides here, try to get it as straight as possible. Here we go, and I'm going to give a little slight angle to our sentiment. Once I have that, I'm going to adhere that to the pattern paper, and then we'll trim that down. I'm going to use a little liquid glue to adhere those two together. And I don't want a lot of the pattern paper, I just wanted to just accent it, because I tried it just plain white and I didn't like the way it just stood there. This makes it feel more cohesive as part of the card. So I'm going to just trim it down. Like I said, I just want just a little bit showing. Get this nice angled. Then I'm going to use some foam adhesive strips to adhere this to our card front. So I'm going to go ahead and decide, yep, that's where I want it. Let me grab some foam adhesive strips really quick. And then I will adhere that. And I trim off any extra. And our card is almost complete. This came together pretty quickly. Altogether, it took me about, with stamping and coloring, about 30 minutes putting it together. So it is a pretty quick card. The images are fun and easy to color. If you're not familiar with Gerda Steiner, they have a beautiful blog with lots of inspiration and a challenge every month as well. And I will link all that in the description below. So here's our completed card. Fun. He is so cute with all his little acorn. I will have some more cards coming up the rest of the month because like I said, I'm guest designing. Again, this was the Nuts About You stamp set, which has the two large images, the tree and the squirrel, with the two smaller, the leaf and the acorn. And I will have it linked in the description box below, along with everything I used. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Head on over to the Gerda Steiner blog and check out all the inspiration. Thank you for being here, and I hope you found some inspiration.